start by thanking you, Joseph, for taking the time to chat with us at the Christian Beat, all about your latest release, Autobiography, and then the tour that you're doing now with the same name.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And actually, tonight we're kicking off the summer tour in Indiana, and stage closed back there. And so we are just so pumped about this album, and so grateful for you guys allowing us to come on and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So to start with the album, do you want to just give a little bit of an idea of how long you were working on it?
Yeah, so I actually started writing this year probably in 2021, the end of 21. So it took us a good, almost 3 years of just really hard writing and recording. And I did something different this time I've never done before. I actually did one song at a time in the studio. So I would basically write a song that I liked, and then I took it to my producer, and we would cut it, and then do that with the next song. So in the past, I've always picked about 10 songs and taken them to a producer and saying let's do this, and kind of nail them down in 2 or 3 months. Whereas this was much more drawn out, but it kind of gave us a little more liberty in the creative process as well, because we didn't have as many time constraints.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm curious how you feel I mean, obviously it extended the time that you said, but how do you think that kind of enhanced your ability to pick and choose the songs that you wanted to be on this project?
Well, I think the cool part was that, pretty much early, because I write all my stuff. So pretty early on in the process if you're going to cut something. It's usually in the room when you're writing the song. You're like, yeah, I got to cut this. So basically what I do is I'll take it to my wife, who's my kind of my manager in so many words. And she helps pick every song that I've ever done. And I'll say, hey, I'm really feeling this song. What do you think? And she'll be honest with me. It's usually one of two things. It's usually, yeah, you got to cut that, or it's, you know what, I think there's something stronger. And she's got a little better radar. So it gave us the liberty to be able to kind of go, okay, if we love this, let's cut it, rather than waiting until we wrote something else that could have maybe replaced it because it
Uh-huh.
wasn't fresh. And so I think that was really cool to be able to kind of write it, cut it, and go on to the next thing.
With it doing that way, do you remember then which was the first one that you cut for the record?
Yeah, so the first one I cut was Jesus Wasn't Leaving, I believe, which was a song about my parents' divorce. And I cut it with David Leonard, who's the producer. The song that I recorded with the producer, most of the tracks are produced by a guy named Nick Schwartz. And he did 10 of I think 10 of the 12. Is that right? Yeah, 10 of the 12 tracks. And the first one I did with him was The Church. That's why it's called Autobiography. I mean, the first two songs were so personal. One was about the divorce, and the other one was about my home church. It was kind of like, this is my story. And
Hmm.
but yeah, Jesus Wasn't Leaving was the first.
I'm curious with the songs being so personally, obviously the title of being autobiography, how do you think that changes or impacts how the listeners can relate to some of the songs and how those speak into their own lives as well?
I've always found it's the weirdest thing. Like, the more personal the song is for me, for whatever
Hmm.
reason, the more it resonates with the listener. And I don't know why that is, because I wrote a song about my grandma, my mama, as I called her, who passed away a few years ago, and wrote a song just called One More Reason, like she's one more reason to go to heaven, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And people just like literally had her praying on there. And but not everybody, most people that hear that song don't know who my mama is, but they've got a grandma. And so I
Hmm.
think it's the same with whether it's a song about my parents' divorce. Maybe you do or don't come from a broken home, but you know somebody who has. Same with addiction. Or we all know what it's like to be brokenhearted. We all know what it's like to feel torn and have family issues. And so I don't know, it's the strangest thing. Like, the more personal I get with my writing, the more it resonates with people. And I find that to be so contrary to what I would expect on the front end of it. And yet, I've kind of always done it that way based on my testimony and everything. And so this was just kind of a byproduct of that, this record.
Absolutely. And I'm curious if there's any of the tracks on the project that resonated either differently or like more than you anticipated now that it's, been out there for close to a month at this point and have had some time to sink in with the listeners.
Yeah, there's a song called Worthy. It's the opening track, and it's kind of like this big worship anthem. And I come from a world that's not as much worship, and so I love this song. There was never a question of whether I was going to cut it or not, but it's been amazing to see the response. I mean, people just are worshiping and they're in it, and it's stylistically it's totally different than anything I've ever done, and really anything, um, yeah, anything I've ever recorded. And so it's been really cool. I open with it every night. It's been so cool to watch how people respond to Worthy, and that one has shocked me. It's not that I didn't think people would like it,
Hmm.
but it's a different kind of. It's more than I like. It's more like this visceral reaction. There's like this. I don't know if visceral is the right word, but like there's this reaction to it that I wasn't certain uh, what happened, and so it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Are there any other of the points talking now, I guess less about the project and more about the tour that you're on now, like night after night that you kind of really lean into and you know that you have, some heart behind those songs?
Well, I think what I'm trying to do on the tour is I'm doing a lot of the new stuff on the front half, and
Hmm.
then on the second half of the show, I'll do, some of the more familiar songs. But it's cool because the front half of it is very much storytelling because the album's autobiography. So I'll do two songs. I'll do like "Worthy" and "Ain't That the Truth," which are those two opening tracks. Then I'll go talk about my home church and go into the church, and then the next segment I'll talk about my parents' divorce, and then the next segment I'll talk about the basement, which is a song about recovery meetings and my addiction and coming out of that. And so, yeah, it's really neat. It's kind of like a story. That first half is a storytelling, and this was my first time ever this weekend tonight to have a band. I've always sang with tracks. I've never really had a live music, so I'm really pumped about that and excited to kind of see where that takes us. And yeah, we're pumped about tonight, and we're pumped about this tour. I mean, just really exciting. It's a 4 month long. We're gonna go home in between some weekends, obviously, but it goes all the way from May to September 1st. So we're pretty pumped.
That's awesome. And I did want to ask though the artwork that you used for the project. I'm just curious, why that for you? Why you chose that particular piece?
When I was thinking about there's like three songs: "The Church," "Jesus Wasn't Leaving," "Tell the Devil," all talk about me as a kid.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Since this is my story, people know what I look like now. You know, obviously, if you follow my music, you know what I look like. You've seen me on a album cover, you've seen me in concert, but I kind of wanted it to be kind of an attention grabber in some ways. And I found the strangest picture of me as a kid where I almost look like a caricature of myself. It's like this. The craziest thing about the picture is that I'm playing that guitar. Well, first of all, the crazy thing is I don't play any instruments whatsoever, which is crazy. And I'm playing this ukulele toy thing, but I'm playing it left-handed, and I'm not left-handed, so I have no clue what is happening in this picture, and yet it kind of embodied the artistic approach that I wanted to take to this artwork. And so a guy named Bert Sumner did the design and just absolutely nailed it, and he did an amazing job.
No, that's great. I did want to ask that. That's funny. Just curious. So you mentioned you'll be out on tour all this summer. Kind of, what do you see in your career? You've been around. You've had more projects, obviously. Where do you see kind of your career taking you over this summer and looking forward? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, it's always been about growth and reaching as many people as possible. And one thing we've seen this year is our crowds have been up at our concerts, and it's been really encouraging. There's some nights, most artists will tell you there's some nights you go in and be a tough crowd, which can really weigh on you mentally. And we've started doing some things strategically this year to try to promote the tour. We've already done a winter tour and a spring tour. We're now doing the summer tour, and yeah, I mean, I feel like there's this stirring going on inside of me that God is trying to say, I want you to grow, and I'm going to grow you, but there's going to be some growing pains in the process. And so I'm certainly feeling growing pains. There's a lot, we've gone through a lot of adversity this year, probably more adversity than when I say we, I'm talking about me and my wife, who kind of run the business side of it. And it's been unbelievable, the adversity, but we know that with adversity typically comes something really great. And we're feeling that there's this shift taking place, and we've been feeling it for a while, but just in the last few months, it's gotten very evident that God is really, he's doing something. He's up to something, and we're just grateful to be, along for the ride and trying to hang on for the ride. Part of the biggest reason we've had adversity is because we bought a bus, and anybody who knows anything about a bus will tell you, uh, it's not just expensive; it can be very unreliable if you get one that has trouble. So that's been tough. But you know what? God is so good to us. He's been so good to me. And as far as the future, I had a buddy of mine who's a pastor. He said, I think you need to prepare for rain. And I didn't really understand what he meant until the last few months. And I'm starting to go, okay. And I don't think he meant rain in the bad way. I think he meant rain in like showers of blessings type thing.
Mhm.
And he was kind of seeing the same thing that I was feeling in my spirit. And so yeah, we're preparing for rain. We're preparing for the blessings of God, and we're starting to see those already, and we're just so grateful.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll close with one final question. I just want to give you the opportunity to share a short message to the listeners, those that are going to connect with your music, either via streaming or the CD, or seeing you live in person, and just your prayer, your hope behind what they can get out of music.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I told somebody is like, we're out here, we're kind of selling hope. And I say selling, I use that word lightly because obviously it's bigger than that. But we those that don't know my story, I'm in recovery from drug addiction. I've been sober for almost 11 years, and every night I talk about that. And I think the biggest thing I want people to take away from my music is there is hope. Whether you've gone through addiction or you love somebody who is, whether you come from a broken home, whether you've lost somebody you love, whether you grew up in the church, you didn't grow up in the church, there is hope for you. And that's what we're out here doing. We're trying to give people hope. And to be honest with you, I think hope goes a really long way. And I'm just grateful that I get to be out here and do what I love. This is my 21st year doing this, my 10th year as a solo artist, but it's just been an amazing journey. And I was telling a buddy of mine this week, I was like, I've been doing this for 21 years, and I got so excited this weekend just to go out and do it again. And I'm grateful for that, because there's some weeks where it's a little tougher than others.
Hmm.
And you're like, man, would it just be easier if I went home and just got a regular job? And then you realize, you know what? That's not what God has called me to do. This is what He put me on this earth to do. And I'm so grateful and so humble that I get to do what I've always wanted to do. And so, what I hope people take away from us is that what God has done for me in my life, He can do for you in life, and there's always hope.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again just for taking the time. Really enjoyed it and loved getting to hear more about the you and the personal stuff behind the music. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I hope you have an awesome day.